today's episode of the Carolina Sports Guy, we're going to dive in and look at the top 10 defensive ends who played for the Carolina Panthers in their 20-some year history. First, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so. Folks, it doesn't cost a dime. Hit that, pound that like button. Let me know what you think of the video. Leave me some comments. By all means, hit the bell notification so you can be notified of further content like the video today, as we're doing videos on the Carolina Panthers, Carolina Hurricanes, Charlotte Hornets, and major college sports in the Carolinas. Alright folks, look at this video. Carolina Sports Guy, we've already broken down linebackers and kind of looked at the history of defensive tackles. And of course we've done quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers / tight ends. So we're kind of running out of positions. But I did want to highlight the defensive ends. Now, before we get to the top 10, got some honorable mentions. And one of the last videos, if you haven't seen it, check it out. Carolina Sports Guy. I did a top 10 or 12 list of the best defensive tackles in Panther history. And I had Les Miller on that list because he played defensive tackle and defensive end. So I'm going to give him a shout out as an honorable mention since I already had him in my top 10 of my defensive tackles. But Les Miller started 19 games for the Panthers. He had a total of 8.5 sacks. Played early on for the Carolina Panthers. So I'm going to kind of just briefly touch on him. Now, one person I put in the defensive tackle video that I put a slideshow pic of him up and put his stats, but I didn't talk about him, was Reggie White. Because technically, Reggie White was a defensive end. Now, why is he not in our top 10 on defensive tackles or defensive end, which he played? Well, folks, he only played 1 year for the Carolina Panthers, and it was towards the end of his career in 2000. He started the 16 games that 1 year he played for us, had a total of 5.5 sacks. So just kind of want to give him a brief shout out because, yeah, he is up there, second all time in sacks. And being that he did get 5.5 for the Panthers, he helped contribute to his overall total. Another player I mentioned in defensive tackles was Sean Gilbert, where we spent two number 1 draft picks to the Washington Redskins at the time, traded for Sean Gilbert out of Pitt. Now, I mentioned him, and he was on the list for defensive tackles. There again, 1 year he played for us at defensive end. He had played 16 games at end for us. He had 6 sacks, and that was back in 1998. So, kind of want to give him an honorable mention. I've already included him in defensive tackles, but got to give him that shout out. Now, someone who did not play defensive tackle, played defensive end, was in the 2019 Ron Rivera's last rodeo with the Panthers. And that was Bruce Irvin, who originally played for the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, he kind of played, we had that 3-4 defense. He kind of played that outside linebacker / defensive end for us. He didn't play the whole season. If I do remember, in 2019, the first 2 or 3 games he didn't play. He had some nagging injury. It might have been a hamstring injury. But in the very little time he did play, he was extremely productive. 8.5 sacks in that one season. Therefore, I just want to throw a bone to Bruce Irvin, the West Virginia Mountaineer, I wouldn't say alum, but he did play his college ball there. I kind of wanted to get him a shout out though because, yeah, for the 1 year, he was very productive for the Panthers. Now, someone else who played a few years for the Panthers and now has moved on, I believe, to the Buffalo Bills, is F.A. Abada. F.A. Abada was the international player. He stuck on the roster for a while as an international player. Ended up going for the practice squad until he got in the game. Now, in the time he had for 3 or 4 years playing for the Carolina Panthers, he did amass a total of 7.5 sacks. It would have been a nice piece that kept this 2021 season, but I think we upgraded and moved on. But a big shout out to F.A. Abada because here's a guy, you know, the human trafficking story, and with him being an orphan and abandoned with his, I think it was his brothers and sister, or he might have had a sister or a brother, I'm not sure. I know he had siblings, and going from the Netherlands to Great Britain, come to the United States, and actually made the Carolina Panthers roster. That was a pretty big deal. So I want to give him a shout out. Now, one more of the older players I want to give him a shout out to was Jared Allen. Man, I used to hate Jared Allen when he played for the Minnesota Vikings. But our Super Bowl run in 2015, we had some injuries on the line, and we definitely needed that spark. We needed that guy to put pressure inside the quarterback. So we work out a deal. We bring Jared Allen to the Carolina Panthers to give him that run. He only played in 12 games for us that year and the playoffs. He only got 2 sacks. But, man, the pressure was there. He was a beast. He helped our defense. Without him, I'm not saying we'd have lost a game, but I'm not sure some of those games where we won by a very commanding lead and got early control if we would have been able to have done so without having the help of Jared Allen coming in the game and playing like he did. Now, other guys I want to give an honorable mention to, guy who we have on the roster right now, Marquis Haynes. Marquis Haynes from Ole Miss. He's played for, I think he's going into his 3rd year for the Panthers, maybe 4th. He has only 5 sacks so far in his career. Now, my problem was I don't think Ron Rivera, because he was young, utilized him enough. I really want to say that Matt Rule put him in and got him in some more situations last year where he played. I put him on the list because if he breaks out or continues to grow and stays with the Panthers, he's a guy that I can see bumping one of these guys 8, 9, or 10 off the list and being one of the top 10 all-time Panthers as far as defensive ends go. Now, Grosse, matose, the guy we drafted last year from Penn State, so he's entering into his 2nd year. Now, I know he missed some time with COVID last year and was on the protocol. I think he had a couple nagging injuries. So he got in a total of 7 games. And he accumulated 2.5 sacks. But as the season went on, his pressures were there. I saw a lot of upside for Grosse matose. If he continues to grow, he can play a full season this year. It's kind of like Marquis Haynes, but with more upside. So I really look for a lot with Grosse matose. Like I said, if he can stay on the roster, stay healthy, get into games, he can definitely be a top 10 player on this list. Now we're going to finally get to the top 10. Number 10 on that list, Mike Fox. Mike Fox was the key defensive end we had in our first 2 seasons, 1995 and 1996. Started a total, played in 37 games. Actually played 37 games for the Panthers. But anyway, his first 2 years, 6.5 sacks. But he was a key contributor to our defense. And I think he really, especially that first year, went 7-9, and the next year 12-4. He was very big for our defense coming up strong, keeping us in those games. Number 9, come a few years later, Jay Williams. He played in 27 games for the Panthers, 2000 to 2001, and he registered 7 sacks. So he had a little bit more production than Fox with a little less time. That's why he makes the list at number 9. Very, very valuable player, kind of in our 4th or 5th year that we were an organization. Number 8, well, number 8's on the list, but really was kind of a disappointment because it was our number 1 pick number 14 in 1998. That was Jason Peters out of Nebraska. He never lived up to the hype, but his numbers are better than some people that you think, and being we're only an organization that's been around 20-some years, he did crack the top 10 list, being number 8. He started a total of 38 games for us, accumulating 7.5 sacks. So yeah, he played 4 years, but really you can look at it, he only started about 2.5 of those years. And he just never panned out with some other players on the draft board. But I do have him coming in at the 8th best defensive end on the Panthers in their history. Number 7, kind of a guy who came in and you didn't hear a lot from, but contributed, was just pretty decent and solid throughout. If I was just come up with one thing to say about Tyler Brayton, he was solid. Tyler Brayton played 46 starts for the Panthers. He got 9.5 sacks, and he played from 2008 to 2010. So those 3 years, he contributed, he started, he was good. Just wasn't really good enough to stay much longer than what he did for the Panthers. Now, top 6 is where we're really getting to where we're going to talk about people who have got a name for the Carolina Panthers. Number 6, entering into his 3rd year this year, Brian Burns. The young man has played impressive these first 2 years. As a matter of fact, his rookie year with Ron Rivera, Ron should have played him more. He has this habit of not playing rookies, starting the older guys, the veterans, and he was already a force when he came in. Last year, he played most of the season, but in the 2 seasons combined, he's played in 31 games, having 19 starts. I believe he only had 7 under Rivera, and he had 12 under Rule. And I know he missed a couple games last year with some minor injuries, some nicks that he had. But a first-round pick out of Florida State, 16.5 sacks in these 2 years. And so you're basically talking about a guy who's averaging about a sack every other game. And he sticks around. If he keeps getting better, and 2 or 3 years, Steph will give him a big contract extension is what I could see after this year and next. I could see this guy definitely moving up in the top 4 or 5 because he's 6 right now on the list. Your number 5 come to me as a bit of surprise. Some people might not think he should be number 5. Other people say, man, how come you don't have him at least number 4, if not, number 3? Well, he was very consistent. This is a guy that played 126 games for the Carolina Panthers. We didn't draft him. We actually got him. The Redskins either had him on a practice squad or they cut him, and we picked him up. But he started 51 games. Starting 51 games, playing 126. Mario Addison out of Troy University. Total 55 sacks. Very impressive. So if there's one stat that I'm going to be looking on, is can Brian Burns, as he develops time for the Panthers, how soon can he knock Mario Addison? Because he still has about almost 40 sacks to go to bypass him, but he doesn't have the timing that he did. But he played from 2012 to 2019 for the Panthers. Just an incredible player. He's moved on since, gone on to the Buffalo Bills. But Mario Addison, what a player. He just was so consistent for us over the years, and even in the Super Bowl year. Number 4, some people don't want me to rank number 4. Like I said, they'll think Addison should have been 4. But I'm looking at number 4, even though he didn't have the games played Addison did. He didn't quite have as many sacks as Addison, didn't even have half the sacks of Addison. But in the limited time this individual coming out of Ole Miss that we drafted like in the 5th round in 2010, the limited time he played for the Panthers in 4 to 5 years, he was a dog. And that's Greg Hardy. Greg Hardy was such a force. 40 games played for the Carolina Panthers, 24 sacks. And I really believe the year we made the playoffs and went 7-8-1, I think he got in 1 or 2 games. The domestic violence issue came up. He couldn't play anymore. He was put on the commissioner's list. We wouldn't have been 7-8-1 with him in the lineup even though we made the playoffs. We might have been 10-6 or 11-5. And I think with him, we would have been ranked a higher seed. We could have actually did more damage in the playoffs. But I really would have liked to have seen Greg Hardy the very next year on the 2015 Panthers that went 15-1. With his pass rushing ability, and not only guys that he played defensive tight end, he played defensive tackle. You could move him all along the line. He was a force, carrying double teams, and just a monster. And he was unstoppable. But the domestic violence issue came up, and overall, he played 63 games for the Panthers, only started 40. But like I said, man, this guy, 24 sacks in his limited time, he's someone that I feel if he could have played longer, would have probably moved up on this list, definitely, at least number 3. Now, number 3 on the list, you're talking about a guy who didn't have any domestic violence issues, a guy who's an upstart member of the Charlotte community. Actually has been on the radio broadcast for the Panthers. Has been involved with the team, the organization. And that's our 2nd round pick in 1999 from Nebraska, Mike Rucker. Mike Rucker played for the Panthers from 1999 to the year 2007, playing in 139 games, 106 starts. He accumulated 55.5 sacks. So yes, he played a little bit more games than Mario Addison did, come away with a half more sack. But he was very instrumental in Super Bowl 38 on the defensive end, and just had an incredible career with the Panthers. One of the best draft picks we ever had. So shout out to Mike Rucker being number 3 on this defensive end list. Number 2 on the list. Rightfully so. Don't see how it can be entrenched for a long time at number 2. From the University of Georgia, our 3rd round pick in 2007, Charles Johnson. Big money. Played in 143 games for the Panthers, started 114. Kind of came on slow. The next player on the list kind of coached him along, helped him out. Charles Johnson was a force, and he accumulated 67.5 sacks over the games he played for the Panthers. And like I said, the guy was a monster. He was a force. He bled Carolina blue and black. And you got to look at what Charles Johnson meant to this franchise. He definitely helped us in Super Bowl 50 get to that level and the level of the defense that we had with Kuechly and the guys back in the day. And the number one player on this list, defensive end, without a doubt. First round pick number 2 overall in 2002 from the University of North Carolina, Julius Peppers. The guy played for the Panthers from 2002 to 2009. And it broke my heart when he left in free agency and he went to the Bears, and I was mad at him for that. In fact, I had a number 90 blue Panther jersey, Peppers, and I ended up giving it away to a friend. I couldn't bear to wear it anymore after he left. Then he ended up going from Chicago to Green Bay. Thankfully, the Panthers brought him home in 2017. He played 2 final years for the Panthers. Played in 154 games overall for Carolina. Started in 133, but 4th all-time in sacks. He's got over 100 and some sacks, but got a 97 sack in the history of the Carolina Panthers. Number 1 overall for us. And I could have only imagined those sacks he got for Chicago and Green Bay if they'd have been in a Panther uniform. Incredible. He definitely is a surefire first-round Hall of Fame pick. And I'm just, he played for us in Super Bowl 38. I wish he could have been here for Super Bowl 50. But just hats off to the greatest defensive lineman, not just defensive end, greatest defensive lineman the Carolina Panthers have ever had. So guys, where would you rank these defensive ends? What would you change? Let me know in the comments. Please hit that bell notification to be notified of other content and videos like in today's video. And please hit that like button. Pound it. Let me know that you like videos like these. And by all means, folks, it's free. Subscribe. And we'll see you next time on the Carolina Sports Guy.